So we're back here with Sam Hoffman on What's That in the Sky, and we're going to go over some pictures that we've picked up along the way. We're looking at our first one now. What do you see in this picture, Sam?
Well, we've got the light effect, of course, sun, etc., is on the right-hand side, and we've got the bottom. What appears to be, well, there's an oval on the right-hand side, which is probably the bottom of Nepacity, because Nepacity has an ovular base cloud. And then there's an object in the middle, just above where it says October 2016, that looks like it's the striped lead object of the object cluster group. And then there's an illumination down just above the 6 to the slightly to the right. And I believe that to be one of the offshoots of where the object cluster group appears to have gone into like maybe 4 groups now, or more things coming in than what we were perceiving on earlier sightings.
Now, when you say object cluster groups in 4 sections, you mean it's split up?
I believe so. It's been changing shape over time. When each time it went out and came back and went out and came back, we've noticed a change. And then there was some supposedly, I don't have this confirmed, of course, but a while back there was something that hit Jupiter again. And then when it came back around again, it had changed from the original threesome into a multiple group of 4 and 5 and 6, where were our sightings. And then over time, it ended up being 3 major lead ones, but they spread out from being close together to being more like almost like a 2 in one area, and then to the other area off to the right is the 3rd one. So that's what they've been changing shape. And now here in recent pictures, we've seen 4 and 5 and multiple other little objects and stuff floating down and coming along with it.
Interesting. And this next picture we got up after that one, is that object cluster group pushing in on the sun from the left there? Or is that a planet?
That looks really purple, and that could be the crossover for that too. That has been matching recent photos. And then, but then there's a white blip over the sun too, so it's really a hard call. It could be the bottom of Nepacity with just some drag off from a cutoff flare. But no, well, the white part over the far left, it could be.
Interesting. And what about that next picture coming up? That's really purple as well.
When the illumination, that's definitely something. Question is it's awful purple, and I would almost be tempted to call that too. Now, when was that taken? Do you remember?
That was taken about a month and a half ago. That was in the middle of the day.
Wow.
Took that out right in the backyard.
Now, this wasn't color changed at all or anything?
Nope. You can tell by the everything below.
Wow, the purple screams at too.
Yeah, I saw that when I walked outside. I was like, oh my God.
I mean, that just screams that too. But then we were noticing that it was crossing in the day, and that's just when we first started noticing it, right? It's back then.
Yeah, but this was back about, like I said, about a month and a half ago.
Okay. Yeah, it screams that too, but I mean, it's almost shaped like the cluster group, but yet it's not.
Yeah, the 45-degree angle's pretty much.
It makes it a lot more difficult lately because there's so many things right in the same area doing little crossovers. One's here and one's there, and the other one's here, and you're going, whoa, wow, look at this. Oh my goodness, what's that now? It's gotten quite busy.
Yeah, it has.
Shall we move to the next one?
Sure. The next one's a run of 6 photos that are basically, one after another.
Okay, this is the Mexico webcam with the nice little resort in the peninsula off ahead.
Yep, that's
definitely got. This could be, wow, it could be Attu crossing in, because notice the white cloud coming around in front of the flare.
Yep.
That could be like the vertical facial cloud lifting up. Or now, well.
Is that the cluster group in front there?
Up in front here, the blue straight line, yeah, on the far left. There's that, it looks literally like the dragon flying through the sky.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's like, we've been watching ever since middle of last summer. We've been watching a drag off between the planets from the bottom of Attu and Uri, and on occasion, the drag off cloud would go all the way to the bottom of the Nepacity, which was on the far end, the other end of the sky. And this could be another example of Attu and Uri dropping a cloud between them. And having the object cluster group skirting the outside around of it.
Yeah, that's pretty wild looking.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all, polarly thread linked, because they're doing this really odd little dance together as a group all underneath the bottom of Saru. And people have been mentioning, well, where's Nibiru? Because, they're not hearing that name, which is what they know.
Right.
And that's above, off to the right, above Saru, or right next to it, or spiraling above our heads.
So it's up there ways enough we wouldn't even see it because of the other planets.
It's so massive we couldn't even tell, because all we would see is blue anyway. And I mean, it's such a huge sky filler, and everything. And, excuse me for a second, share please. Yeah. Well. Okay. Thank you. Anyway,
No worries, Sam. I'll edit
there's
that out.
definitely a serious. You've got a very rounded thing on the right here, and of course, we know that Atu and Yuri are on the right, and then we know that Nepesity is on the left. But then Atu's been crossing in front, and then everybody's been seeing his Saturn cross from the left side over the top of the sun with this weird illumination and thread connection and all this other stuff over to the right. So depending on the camera we're looking at, all of these angles can change.
Yeah.
Over the next one, I guess. I'm over the next picture. Is that right? Cool.
Yeah, I've already moved to the fourth picture because that's the next, major picture change.
Oh, okay. 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. Where it's got that dark and then the pinch illumination changes with the trail. And then, yeah, there's that illuminated object and the second one on the bottom of the clouded can. Those may be the branch offs of the object cluster group, where we're staring at them off at a distance stacked 1, 2, 3, 4. Where they're coming in underneath. And if you really look, there's like the core cloud on the left-hand side and all this other weird dark side to this, and the cloud of that, and space clouds that exist between these planets. They've got cold spots, and I'm sure they're leaving a gaseous trail behind each other. And it's a really cool picture. I'm going to see where we're at. And see where, yeah. That's definitely Atu cutting in there, isn't it?
Yeah. It looks like Yuri in the background.
In the side with the bumpy face even.
Yeah.
Wow, that's some weird shit going on.
That's definitely some cutoff there, though, of the sun.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then, these major spikes, you can see the light spikes. That shows it for sure.
Yeah. It's it gets worse in the next picture, and the next picture really starts cutting the sun off pretty good. A lot of people keep wondering why we're not having full solar eclipses, and I keep putting videos out showing that we are.
Well, also the deal is that the smaller planets like Atu, Isatum, and Nepesity, when they're directly pretty much in front of the sun goes around them as well.
Yeah,
we've got evidence of that.
And it also reflects multi-reflections off side-to-side planets.
Yeah. Now, if Yuri were to go in front of the sun, we would see literally half the sun.
Right.
And if Saru and Nibiru went in front of the sun, then we would be not seeing it. We would see an illumination from underneath them because they're so huge that it would completely block out. But we've also got that, in the cases with close proximity passes with Nepesity, Isatum, Atu, etc. And any time now, I expect, in Matim pass, if we haven't already seen a couple, because I've got some pictures that I keep thinking are Matim and up close, and I've just never published them yet because I couldn't fully prove it by multiple sightings.
Right. So moving on to this next picture, the really purple one.
The really purple one, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's purple. We know what purple is. Purple is Atu.
Yeah, I use this picture a lot.
The white gray behind it, gray blue, has got to be Yuri because Yuri's very light and very grayish. And we know that they've been crossing over at different times during the day, and it's been quite confusing because everything is there's a lot going on right there. There really is. Objects and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Now moving on to the next picture. I mean, that's two big planets right there. I mean, I'm pretty certain that's Atu and Yuri.
Yeah, purple, and then you've got the striped dark side, and it, of course, is on the right-hand side of the sun as well.
Yep.
And we know that they've been there for, the last 2-3 years. So.
Yeah, that's
and then we also know that they're coming back in larger lately. And this really could be, you see the round, and it could be a side illumination. Now, this is in Mexico again, so they're at a different latitude. So perhaps they're only seeing half the planet, where, looking across their horizon line because it's side passing, whereas we might see it completely different.
Right, the angle.
Right. And Sharon got pictures the other day where the sun's shining behind Atu, but then there's a lot of other pictures where Atu hasn't crossed fully across for that to happen, but yet she's over in Illinois and all of that. So this is what she's seeing from her angle. And then Mexico and Cabo and all these other places are seeing something completely different. And then Australia and South America and Europe. Now, I got some pictures from Mark in Ireland the other day, and they're seeing the bottom of Atu and Yuri pretty predominantly instead of Nepesity right now currently, and they're seeing less of Nepesity than we are. So that tells me leads me to believe it's over by the Pacific.
Now, in the next picture, I know it was taken back in October. That's blue sky cutting off the sun.
Oh, that big blue thing on the right hand side, of course, is Atu.
Right.
And that's the crossing that we've been seeing it do, and it's got we've been seeing close enough facials that there's a moon attached to it, and there's a vertical cloud that usually comes off the base. But in this picture, it's so brightly cutting off front of the sun that it's not visible. But that could be where that blue flare is coming from. It's from
Yeah,
that artificial moon.
definitely a cutoff there.
Right. You know, our sky is pretty much the yellow part, and the rest of it has a lot to do with planets from so far up and so far up, and the levels of clouds. It's pretty deceptive at first until you start understanding what you're looking at. This message is for the Pleiadians. This is not made for human consumption. This is a message to the future, because we know that this goes down in history. Pretty deceptive at first until you start understanding what you're looking at.
Well, this next picture is pretty self-explanatory. I think it's got the green nepacity above and Saturn there on the left, and it looks like Atu on the right, right over the sun, actually.
Green over the top, which is cutting off directly, literally 2/3 and now 3/4 of the picture, and then you go at the back of that, and you see the red. There's got to be a Saturn right there,
right?
Because we know that a Saturn has been behind nepacity for the longest time. And if they're going over the top of us, which we know that they've been doing as well, then that's pretty much where it's got to be, and that's where the red and all this other's been coming from in our skies.
Yeah, that's
that yellow green. Yeah, you can't argue that. That's nepacity.
Yeah.
Or that hole or whatever,
The cutoff at the sun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, what's the date? Is this from this summer or this fall?
Oh no, this was about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that still fits.
That's from the top of a mountain.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, the sky's a little closer.
Yeah, it is. And what about this next picture we're looking at?
Okay. Well, there we're seeing it. The stripes of Atu cutting off into the right-hand side, and that white flare below the purple is, of course, the moon, the facial moon we were talking about, and it's in direct sunlight of the sun at that angle very intensely because of nepacity, which we can literally see the greenish stripes of so close to it on the left-hand side, and its pinch off that it's making, and so the light is focaling and more intense to where it's coming through, and it's like a burn off of light, but it is going around that moon.
So is that why the flaring is so bright? Because it's reflecting off the sides of all the other planets nearby?
Well, yeah, it's sort of, but then it sort of bounces in between them, and they're refracting it as well. They're sort of like additional. You could almost call them, almost mirrors because they've got an atmosphere, and when light hits that atmosphere, it bounces off of it and it goes through it, and so you can see amplifications, like when the light shines on the behind of a planet. The light can run all the way across from one side of the planet all the way to the other side of the planet and focal out the center of the atmosphere at the equator line of the planet and make this really weird luminescent thing on the side.
Like a sundial.
Everybody goes, oh, yeah, we've seen hundreds of those pictures where it's called a backlit crescent flare, where it focals out the back of the atmosphere and then you see a glow on the far side of the planet, but then you don't really see the planet. But if you look at it, you can see the shape of the planet is a little round.
Right.
And then it's focaling through the back. There's hundreds of those pictures.
Now, when those kind of pictures happen, isn't that when people start talking about the fake sun and because of the odd shape?
Yeah, that's when all of that stuff comes in, and then when the illumination of the object cluster group comes in, or the fact that there's four groups now, they're all talking about, this is. I mean, I heard a program the other day, and they were going on and on about the possibilities of the fake sun. For one, the transition is too often for them to even need something like that. And for two, that it would take building this massive thing instead of a pinched off weird light on the side of the ISS space station. And everybody keeps going on and on about that in this stuff. And if they'd only, call me on the phone or write me a PM or come to Montana Skywatchers 2, and it was just an open site for anybody, and we can talk about it, and I can answer 90% of their questions as to what's going on, because it's quite simple. And they're making it this huge mountain out of all of these little rumors and everything. It's driving everybody crazy. And it's quite simple. It's really easy to answer. You just got to understand where the planets are and that the fact that the light is pinching between them. And we're seeing the smaller objects, and they're illuminating and breaking up in light and this and that and the other thing. And right now, currently, there's like 4 or 5 different objects right around near the sun, underneath the bigger planets and the smaller planets.
So when they see that hexagon or the square sun, and they're so convinced that it's a Fresnel lens, something or another, and they got all these pictures of flares and how they're interlocking and such. I mean, and they're just seeing the refraction from the inside of the pinch.
Right, and what they don't, and everybody knows about the chemtrails and stuff, and yet they don't take into account that there's particulate, which is like making a muddy swimming pool we're looking through. And if they just realize that the shadows and start looking at the dark spots instead of paying attention to the light, they'd understand that on the horizon line is the real sky, and these blue areas and the purple areas and the green areas and the red areas are all parts of planets. And they've just got to understand these things are massive, and little tiny Earth is swimming underneath a whole bunch of really big, huge objects that are floating around us on a daily basis. And when you get, hundreds and hundreds of pictures that match time after time after time, year after year after year, they're not wrong. And these guys have just got to come around to seeing this, because they're making up a bunch of stories, and then they get lost in conversations over that, and they're wasting a whole lot of study hours and paying subscription fees to silly people that don't really necessarily deserve it anyway. I digress. Go right ahead.
Okay, moving on to the next picture.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're doing. I remember now.
This next picture is pretty wild. I mean, I honestly thought this was Tim on a close pass just because of all the blue. What do you think?
Well, okay, now this is the Spanish church with two coming directly in front of the sun. That matches the picture that your lady friend took the other day, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's the bottom Batu for shit sure. Guys out there in YouTube/Facebook land.
The next picture. Anyway. The next picture shows two balls, and it looks like Yuri.
Okay, you want to already move past that on this one? This one's a phenomenal shot of
which one?
Of Batu, the one with the church.
Okay, yeah, I'm still there.
Okay. Guerrero.
Yep.
Okay, that's a phenomenal capture, and it's directly, and you can see the illumination because this is in front of the sun. And this shows you an example where the light will just shine completely around it. Now, the other day, we got some pictures from some of the Canadian members of the Montana Skywatchers who posted something very similar, although the picture was capturing a little bit more of everything to the left. But it showed a full circle halo illumination of Atu as well. And this was right after Sharon got her pics.
Nice.
Yeah, and you can, notice how everything is shadowed off in the distance off to the left side of the picture, where the right side of the picture is illuminated. And then, you got the drag-off cloud that literally goes in front of you from middle right to all the way to the left. And that's like what it's been showing, where there's the drag-off cloud is covering literally from one group of planets all the way to the other group of planets. And that's a good portion of why our skies are whited out a lot as well for everybody. Because if you're under that, you're under that.
Right.
And the sun's barely shining through it. And this is partial, we're in wobble. And now we're warming up this week. Now next week, again, we're going to dump down to the cold. Because we've been in a week and a half cycle where we're wobbling on one side of our axis, and then we're wobbling on the other side of our axis, and then the other part of the world is getting their butt froze off, and then we freeze our butts off, and then the other part of the planet freezes their butts off. Because the North Pole is going just psycho crazy right now.
Is there even a North Pole that's frozen at the moment?
Well, I mean, technically, yeah, there is a North Pole. I mean, you can say magnetic north, and then you can say weather spherical north, and do they both match or meet? I couldn't tell you. And we know that prior to pole shift, that there's something what they call it's like pole arm reach, where you have multiple different poles reaching out, trying to have a leg in case the planet actually falls. It's sort of like a plasma ball where you touch it, it'll zap many different areas instead of just one. They're laying out little fingers and threads to stop it from doing that, because we live in an electrical universe. And of course, these planets push each other away and discharge off each other and all sorts of stuff.
Now, this next picture, Sam.
Well, wow. Well, it looks like object cluster group illumination, and possibly the moon of Atu, because around there on the upper right of it is the size of Atu, of course, but then you've got the lumpies and illuminations of the object cluster group.
Right. Okay. And that next picture after that, is that the same?
It matches everything we've been seeing. Yeah, pretty much the same, yeah. But that's like a pinch-off illumination coming in between, which is the same. So, yeah, you had something in the way blocking the sun.
Yeah. Interesting.
I'm on to the orange one.
Okay, so am I. Tell us a bit about that one.
Of course, we know is the fanciful shape of Atu, with the blue area being Yuri over the top of us, and that's at sunset. And then Nepested is either over the head of us and past in this picture, or behind and back. I'm not fully sure how it's working right now currently, but we know that pinch group right there. And we also know that it looks like the OCG coming on underneath it.
Right. That's the same clouds that people like to call clouds that come by just about every day.
Including that first black one on the bottom left, the major closest one to the other orange little finger there. If you count that as 1, and you go up to 2 and 3 and 4, and then you see the weird rosation flare in between finger 5, that could be the site of Yuri for sure, and Atu could be right there in between fingers 1, 2, and 3. And this would actually also show what we've been seeing as the 4 different groups of objects coming in underneath and rotating. And now, remember, we've seen a lot of the low drag past Earth clouds where all of a sudden they started banking and turning. You
right.
remember seeing? this is an example of that, where they are going away from us and turning away from us as well after they've passed us at sunset. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
And that glowing orange shows you that it is definitely closer than the bluish purple object behind it, which we can see a direct silhouette of behind. When you look between the orange and then the brown finger there on the left hand side, there you can see that the light comes from behind that back area, and it's literally a perfect circle.
Yeah.
And we know that shape has been Atu and Uri for 3 years.
Right.
So we know that Atu and Uri in their display. And then, of course, the vertical cloud, of course, is Atu's moon. Now, this picture, I believe, is about 2 months old?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and remember, the vertical cloud is off the base of Atu, and 2 months ago, it was right there. And now it's starting to turn all the way over to the left-hand side in this week's recent current pictures.
Yeah, and it's funny that how tall the sky has gotten. I mean, the cluster group there always comes in at an angle from above, right. And clouds don't do that.
Right, and if you watch them go over the top of you, I mean, if you actually sit in your yard for 4 or 5 hours or 6 hours to watch these events, you'll see them come and go, and then you get a better idea of how they're actually orbiting. But then you have to also take into account the fact that the Earth is spinning underneath while they're spinning above us in the opposite direction. We believe opposite direction. And that's why the planet groups don't mix. But anyway. It's quite the show if you have the time to actually go out and watch. And once you identify the bottom of the cloud patterns, and I'm going to take some pictures and work on the base clouds so everybody can identify them a little bit better, but I'm going to do a thing on that. But once you identify the base clouds and get to know what you're looking at, and you see the same shapes over and over, day after day after day, and how they move, you know right what's going on, especially with the colors and everything proving exactly like, well, when we see the purple in the sky, we know that Atu is right there, and by God it is.
Yep.
And if we were wrong after 7 years, it would have proved false, but it just keeps happening and happening and happening. And I've got hundreds of people on Skywatcher that actually have seen the planets by eye themselves, and they just go, oh my God, my jaw dropped and I stood there and almost peed my pants.
Yeah, I've taken a couple pictures.
Yeah, it's cool, ain't it?
Go
ahead anyway.
On the next picture, that's a close-up of Atu in front of Uri going by the sun that I picked up in October.
Okay, 10/20/16, yeah.
You can see how the light's going around the entirety of the planet there.
Right, yeah, and you can see the little light bow, and then there's of course the lower horizontal mushrooming out of the sun, because it is a cutoff flare. Yeah, and you've got purple Atu in there, and then you've got the drag-off cloud literally, or the focal flare off of that moon. Yep. Again, could account for that as well. And then you've got big gray dark Uri behind it with stripes. Right.
Now, is that a reflection of Atu on Uri? It looks like
it could be a refractive illumination point, because I'm sure that the light will have to go between it and Uri.
Right. It looks like that's a reflection.
The lower area has an excruciatingly bubbly cloud area, and it's white, so and you might even you can actually kind of see sort of an old man space in back there. Yeah, I'm sure that the light's bouncing off the clouds between Atu and Uri. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely a good reflection.
Tail off to the right.
Now this next picture after that, I took myself, and that's a phenomenal picture, I think. That's up Uri and Atu.
Right, and you've got a vertical cloud. See that little white blip in the middle of the right?
Yep.
And it goes straight up. And
cluster group coming underneath.
And so you've got the round circle on the right-hand side, and then in the back is striped Uri that's much darker and shadowing. Is this right at sunset or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Right, so it has moved over to your area sunset after Nepenthe has already gone by, and that was a couple months ago?
That was about 4 months ago, really.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm just trying to see if this works in my head, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, vertical cloud, and we're seeing a lot, and we never saw it at this illuminated angle before. We were always seeing the other side of Uri and Atu for the first 2 years, and then when Atu first got here, we talked about that before, and then it parked itself next to Uri, and then as Uri went from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. And that's when it all started making sense, and it's because it started matching those the video that had been banned here in the U.S. that we ended up getting back from Germany, which is why it's in German. But it too matched the information from the Pleiadian that I got, and that's why we ran with the names and everything. And after about the second year, all the information matched, and so we stuck with the names because it fits still to this day, including descriptions and everything, except for the planetary count. The planetary count was saying what planets first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. was off on that film. Other than that, the descriptions and everything match, and that's why we run with it, and it's held true.
Yeah, that vertical cloud's. I mean, it's there.
Oh, we've got pictures going way back many years. 2011, 2012, when it first started doing its thing, where it's literally you can see the vertical cloud on the one side of Attu and Uri, and then the arm reach around from this one cloud group, which is actually the object cluster group, which back then looked like just like a little tiny finger cloud going around the group. Back when we could see all five in one group, what we used to call the five group. After Saru pulled up to the right, and then all the other ones came in visible. Uri was more visible, but at one point in time, Uri was small between Saru and Nibiru, which Nibiru was on the right, and then Saru was on the left back in 2013 or so. And then Saru kept moving farther over to the right of the sun, over the top of it. And then Nibiru kept moving up and to the right. So then Saru took over the view. You couldn't see anything. You could barely see Nibiru in the background next to Saru for the longest time. And then the smaller, what we refer to as the Anno Domini planets, they came in, and they came in from the right-hand side underneath Saru, and then with Uri started moving, and then boom, there was that too, and then there was a green and a red one starting to show up, and then a blue one, and that's when we first called the blue Kachina, and then the red one, everyone went, oh, okay, look at this, and then Isatu came in, and Attu came in, and they did a couple of passes twice. And then the second time around, they really started having havoc on the Earth weather and everything, and really freaky storms, and everybody just chalked it up to just normal weather, and it wasn't. And then the planets started coming in, and then they switched positions, but they didn't really switch positions. What it was is we started going around them in a different manner at their tail end as they're spiraling away and up from us. And so we're seeing the last of them, and they're all heading to the right from the left lower where they used to be. Currently, we're seeing pictures down in Mexico, these last pictures, where Attu is rising up in the horizon to the people at the equator. Whereas up here, we're seeing them as a facial cross. Okay, I think I just went to the next picture by accident.
Okay, not a problem. That one shows a really dark area. I'm assuming that's the dark side.
Yeah, that's definitely Attu again right there. You can see all the lines in the straight, and you can see the dark blip up to its upper left of the dark full circle, and that would of course account for the moon again, and in shadow. And then there's the lighter blue rounded circle behind it, and that of course would be striped gray Uri, because the sun is behind you in this photograph and slightly up. So right. The illumination is literally showing you, and yet that whole area should be light blue, and it's not.
Yeah, like the horizon.
Yeah, right. It should be the same color as the rest of the horizon. And then you see these two free blips in the side as well, over here right directly above the White House and the branches. Those two blips,
yep.
And then 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 other blips is probably OCG. Rounding underneath those guys as they come across. There's a freaky lot of stuff up there right now, and then, like we said, we've been watching for. And if you look underneath Attu or at the base of Attu, there's a couple of little blips down there too.
Indeed.
Those little leaders that moved ahead of the other ones. We've seen electrical discharges where in space and on pictures of Earth as well. And I saw it personally go over the top of Montana at one point in time, where the object cluster group and these large asteroids have actually come in so close they've electrically discharged on Earth. Now, the larger ones have slowed down, and the smaller debris has sped past them. And that's why I think they're breaking up into larger groups, is every time they discharge on Earth, they slow down, but the other stuff behind them goes swinging past it. And we've seen a lot of really funky, beautiful rainbow hue around it, and that's the sun shining through all of the gases and debris and stuff that the object cluster group is obviously emanating and part of. And like I said before, it's been orbiting behind under Saru and the smaller planets for years, and we just didn't know. We saw it, and we've been watching it come in. And at one point in time, it was illuminating in just one group, and then it was all of a sudden 3, and we've got hundreds of pictures of just the 3. And now all of a sudden, there's 4 separate groups of multiple objects, and they're damn big and damn close. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Well, let's move on to the next picture.
And tell your lady friend I heard the laugh in the background. Okay. Well, it's quite easy to talk forever. Oh, yeah, it's got to be OCG.
Coming in
hard.
Nasty
little turned-down knuckle on the first round, and it's got the 3 stripes, and it also almost looks like a face with an open jaw.
Yeah.
Because we've got numerous pictures where this damn thing looks like a skull. And for you mythos metaphysical people who are really into some crazy New Age star stuff, this thing is freaky. It truly is. I've seen hundreds of pictures of this, and it's still got me in awe to this day.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed. I'm amazed that people aren't talking about it, but then is what NASA's talking about now in their little tiny tidbit releases. This previously, before unknown asteroids buzzes past Earth for a second time this month. I'm still chuckling over that one.
Yeah. On the next one, though.
Okay.
That's a mighty big shadow.
Yeah, well, that would be Nepacity on one side, and Attu and Uri on the other, and then that big, huge black dot, which we could talk about sometime, because there's more than planets up there. there's people up there. And for those of you guys that, you know, are new to this, and I kind of know what I'm talking about. I wouldn't say it if I didn't fully know it, because I try not to make guesses. This stuff is all practiced and proven over time.
Now that black dot right there, a lot of
Yeah,
people
that
want to
black
know
dot.
about that black dot, Sam.
Well, we've got pictures of 2 and 3 of them up there. We've got pictures of where there's a cube up there. We've got some recent close passes of the cube. Now, the Texas cube appeared over the top of Texas, I believe in 2012, 2013. And the main orb, which we've been all watching about, and you can look into my stuff if you don't know what it is. I'll talk to you later about that. The main orb appeared in around 2009. And people need to know this thing came through the Norway spiral. It did come through. So do your background research on that. And it got here early for a reason. And you can look that up too. Little tidbits of information you can go look up. Anyway, I digress again.
Let's move on to the next photo then.
Yeah, that's actually a cool picture. You can really see tattoo in there and the stripes and all the jury stripes in there quite well.
Yeah, that's a pretty good cutoff photo for sure. You can see the light coming out on the other side as well.
Yeah, you can read the opacity sticking through, and the hard sharp glare is showing cutoff glare. Anyway, next picture. Ooh, a little orangey and blue. Yep. And well, there again, there you see that same literally average size shape, rounded purplish planet right there next to the sun on the right-hand side. It's another example showing you that there is something there. And on the right, on the did I say left? I'm on the right-hand side, but on the left there's these dots of purple, and that could be the object cluster group. I just had one of the kids walking in and out of the.
Yeah, it does kind of look like it has stripes in some of those lead objects there.
Right. I swear it's right in our face, because I mean we've seen, you know, I've got numerous ones where it's wrapped in a perfect round cloud with those 3 lines going through it, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and that damn thing is just spooky as all hell. And then there's all the stuff behind it and with it and ahead of it that we don't see, and we haven't memorized yet, which I'm starting to, you know, pay more attention to, because after that video that you had on your wall today, and that was posted by I can't remember the gentleman's name, and I wish I could, because I should.
Robert Mitchell something.
Mitchell Smith or Robert Smith.
Robert Smith, yeah.
And I apologize if we get it wrong, but I didn't write it down, and I should have.
Yep, it was Robert Mitchell Smith.
Great capture, because it really seriously looks like the object cluster group lead object, and it's really huge and directly overhead. And then with all this, you know, the rumor that we're going to get pasted by an asteroid, I wouldn't doubt it, because if you go back, you know, to 1700 BC and all of this, the last cycle, and Moses and all of that, they got 75-pound laning asteroids in by the millions as one of the plagues. So I wouldn't doubt it for a minute that we see a whole bunch of asteroids come in, or another Chernobylsk or whatever coming in. It's kind of expected, because I mean there's a lot of stuff up there.
Yeah, there is. On this next picture, the next picture kind of looks like what you were talking about in your video, number 7, with the bell-shaped flaring.
Yeah. Yep. And you can see on the right hand side there's a sort of a graying under on the one side where it's not on the left. But that's because Atu is right there, and then there's a refraction off the base of Uri, and then of course Nepacity is showing a green, hardcore green flare on the left-hand side because Nepacity is belling, and it's literally like those planets are right there, and they are mostly cutting off the sun, probably 75% or more, and all you're seeing is the downward refraction, the bell shape of the cutoff flare of the 2 planets that are right there between us and the sun.
Incredible. It's kind of like in the next picture after that. You can completely see the top of the planet there.
When you're wandering around outside or driving around and you're thinking, my God, it's really weirdly dim outside, I wonder why. If you stop your car or get off the bus or whatever and look around and see something like this, then you might actually see land masses. You know, put some gray-black sunglasses on, and you look at these dark blue areas. Don't look at the sun. Look at the dark areas. You might actually see the size of the planets. Oh, a nice one, yeah. There, that round refraction, that shows you a perfect example of what we've been talking about. And this is, of course, the White Mexican webcam, where Atu and Uri may be coming up horizontal from below the ecliptic of our view of the horizon, and rising up first thing in the morning, because you know we're talking about how they are following in behind Nepacity in their actions, and then Nepacity is rising over the top of us first thing in the morning, in what we've seen for the last month or 2 in the Mexican webcams. And then when they go over, and they don't run in a 24-hour cycle, they run in a faster cycle, so the process changes pretty quick on us. But this would say that it's probably Uri cutting off that bottom lower left, while Nepacity is going over the top, and Atu or whatever is doing whatever it's doing.
That's an incredible reflection in that picture, though.
Yeah. There is. There's a really interesting light over to the bottom, and it's showing the refraction, the light illumination over the top of that rounded object.
Yeah, that's wild.
And if it is Uri, that is one of the stripes of Uri, because we know that Uri has a really weird upper 1/3, and then the other 2/3 are more striped, with of course the bubbly bottom.
Right.
And this maybe the bright illuminated stripe area on the side of Uri.
Now in the next picture, that's kind of what we're seeing, right? The stripes.
Well, in the next picture, you're still seeing on this one, you're still seeing the side of Nepacity, and then you're seeing Atu and Uri doing the cutoff on the right. Okay.
Right.
And that's where Nepacity is starting through the day, and of course that's probably a different direction it's facing. I can't fully explain how they see it down in Mexico.
Yeah, they got a definite angle on us.
Right, and it changes the horizontal settings and the depth of the sun versus what we're seeing. But if you look in the upper right corner, you can see that weird, almost paintbrush flare going there. That's going around the base of Atu, cutting in
right.
the sun. And then there's the secondary rounding flare, like the spur on the bottom of the belly.
Right.
But that's got to be Uri, because you can see the direct line underneath, and then of course the distant yellowing sky below that. But over here, you're seeing a direct flaring off the side on the left. And there's these long, drawn-out cutoff flares that are running inside the atmosphere of larger Nepacity. And it's a thin atmosphere. I don't really believe it has much of an atmosphere, and that's why it's not illuminating too much of the planet face. But
yeah,
look, there'll be tons of stuff.
The flares that are coming out even further past the steeple there, those are the ones coming out from the backside of the planet as well, on the dark side, right?
Yeah, but once you put the big round circle in, and then you can see that there's shadowing and all.
Yeah.
And of course, off in the distance is the yellow sky, which is because two suns, a red and a yellow sun. We got more of the red hue or the yellow hue going on than we have our blue these days.
Right.
All I have to do is go back, just go watch movies filmed in the 70s and the 80s when they show a sunset. You'll see it's this tiny little dot off in the distance.
Yeah.
These gigantic things. These gigantic flares are pinch-off flares. It's enlarging the illumination because it's focaling through and creating a flare when it comes out through the atmospheres of these other planets that we're staring at. And most everybody's missing it, going, oh, what a cool sky, or oh my God, look at all those chemtrails, hack,
Yeah.
And it's some chemtrailing, which adds to the fog that we can't see through, so we don't see the continents or the water or the mountains on these planets, but they're so close. You could see in some of these pictures, if you catch it just right, you can see unbelievable stuff. And now we did that in 2013 and 2012 as well, when Nibiru passed and everything. We got phenomenal pictures. And we've tried to show everybody, but there are so many pictures in the past that we could talk for hours, and just try to posting current stuff and proving it is hard enough. But I could put a million pictures together. I really could.
Now this next picture after that, with the sun going down, and you got an obvious planet there on the left, or a moon, and then on the right you got a lot of
okay, well, now think Nepacity with OCG.
Okay, and that's the Nepacity overhead with the OCG
overhead
coming
Nepacity. Right, and you can see the base cloud on the right hand side with the core cloud sticking out.
Right.
See the core cloud on the right hand side.
Yep.
And then think huge overhead Nepacity with the OCG visible right underneath between the Earth's horizon and back when it was still doing. Now imagine that below the horizon, past that one point, just on the left of the sun, that it continues on. And remember that one picture we got recently where it was very up close and very streaming, and this is like the second object we're looking at, and not the first one, because it's below the horizon already.
Right.
And then the third object is that light band over to the middle left in the gray-black area.
Okay.
That matches that one picture that we got, except it's partially below the horizon from what we're looking at.
And what's that on the right-hand side with the stripes?
That's the core cloud of Nepacity.
Oh.
See how the axis is tipped?
Yep.
And it has moved where it was. Remember back when it was on the left-hand side, the axis core on the planet was on the other side, and it tipped. And we saw that evident and visible when Saru passed as well. You could see her axis bottom core cloud was at one angle for a period of time, and then when it went to the left, over to the right, when it went over to the right-hand side, the axis of the planet went over and tipped the other way, as well as some Earth tipping as well during the process of that, because Earth has wiggled back and forth so many times you wouldn't believe. Are you still with me?
Oh, yeah.
I heard some clicking, and I thought maybe we got disconnected for the third time.
Well, yeah, no, not this time. It was just me taking a drink of water, I think.
Oh, hey, nobody told me we were allowed to drink water, man. God, I should have had this set up. I lost my coffee cup somewhere through the house. So I'll take a bit, through the magic of television, I'll walk to the other room.
There you go.
The kids are playing. I found my cup. Yes.
Yeah, this next picture after that one is pretty interesting. It's got the focal flaring from the planets cutting in on both sides and from underneath. And,
right?
and I
With
mean,
the blue circle,
this would be, yeah, the one with the circle. This would be one of
right?
those pictures that people like to say, oh, the fake sun.
Well, look at that. See that little first blue line above the little or the little white line, excuse me, next to little blue circles.
Yep.
That focal white there, that fits right where the Atu's moon has been cited as illuminating, and that's basically Atu, and then you got Uri behind, and you got Nepenthe coming on the left hand side again. And look how dark. Look how
Yeah.
dark everything in the left hand side from the mountains and everything are dark. And
Even
look
the
at the
clouds are
mountains.
dark.
Yeah, the church is dark. Everything's dark,
The
and that's
clouds.
the planet Nepenthe cutting off on the left hand side, and that's seriously affecting our weather. I'm sure that has a lot to do why we have so like on land hurricanes in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
They'll tell you it's 70 mile an hour winds just to keep it under the hurricane status. You got 5 more miles an hour to that wind, and that's hurricane status. And of course, then they'd have to name it, and then people start asking questions like, why do we have named storms all of a sudden?
Yeah, this next picture is definitely a pinch or a squash of the sun.
Yeah, that's as silly as trying to tell people what punch clouds are, which is a new thing. That and shelf clouds.
Yeah,
Those are
shelf
all new
clouds.
inventions. The rare punch cloud.
Yeah, the rare shelf cloud that happens every day.
Yeah, all across the planet and wreaks havoc and rips people's homes and sends them into space. And you wonder what that is. Yeah, that's a punch cloud. Yeah, well, what's punching the hole? It's another planet's atmosphere bumping into our atmosphere, and in some cases enveloping into each other, which is where we get the electrical discharges and freak lightning storms and really cool shit. Why entire herds of cattle are killed instantly by one lightning bolt.
2 kids have been killed, and 36 others were injured by one lightning bolt that came out of the sky.
Now, the key is the purple lightning. The purple lightning is a planetary discharge between each other. And, they laughed at Immanuel Velikovsky, and he was very, very much right. The worlds in collision. They don't crash into each other. They electrically discharge and repel each other. And you could, of course, look at the canals of Mars. You could look at another study point would be like Filipino, Russia, and stuff. And you look at the landscape, and it's all lightning scarred from previous cycles of the Nibiru group, which, of course, comes by every 3,654 years. Anyway.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of the Thunderbolts project and
David Talbot, fantastic work.
Those guys.
I just wish that he would be able to add the Nibiru planets, and perhaps he can't because he may know about them. I don't know if he does or not, but if they could add that in, it would make perfect sense to everybody, and everybody would grasp this in a heartbeat. I moved on to the next picture.
Oh, okay.
You have overhead planet cutting off barely, and it could be the orb, it could be a lens flail. I really don't know, but most of the time that's where the orb hides, is in front of the sun. And it's massive. It's huge. I've seen that sucker by eye, so I know it's real.
Well, I know it's real because lens fails don't reflect.
Well, lens fails don't stop, drop out of the clouds, turn, look at you, and then turn on their central blue beam high. And I got pictures of that to prove it as well. I've got a couple hundred pictures of the orb. And I know it's real because I watched it drop out of the clouds and change directions and stop. And then we've got hundreds of pictures of it changing directions in SETI pictures and stuff too over the years.
Yep.
Everybody just wonders what that is. Now there's been a whole new batch of them. It's that big orb with a hole in the middle of it, and everybody wonders what it is. Well, that's where I've seen that sucker's eye turn on, and I saw it, and I almost peed my pants. I mean, I was watching it from my yard. I'm going, oh man, that thing just stopped, changed directions, and dropped out of the clouds. And it's a small moon, and holy crap! And then all of a sudden, that blue light turned on. Never forget that as long as I live. Anyhow,
I moved on to the next church picture.
Another church picture with Atu pinching into the light pinch and Nepenthe coming up off to the side and rising up over as the day goes on, this is about 11 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, and you're seeing the same pinch light effect that we've been watching for the last month or so. Atu crossing.
Yeah, the picture I'm looking at, it says it's 7 a.m.
Oh, well. Okay, found it. Yeah, okay, and then the vertical cloud, which is slightly angular. Yeah, that's Atu and Uri definitely because it's got the same pinch formation. And of course, to the left here, we're seeing these little light illuminated blip dots, which we know is orbiting object cluster group. And even on the right-hand side, there's a couple over there that are illuminated, which could be one of the other trails. But this one vertical, which actually it could be even an object from the object cluster group, but the vertical clouds are there from Atu. Come to think of it now, I'm looking out, and there was some sightings the other day that this one looks very much like. Those objects are coming in, and they're getting bigger and bigger, and they're illuminating. Yeah, there's reports coming in all over the place. We get them from Emil Perez over there in the Mediterranean, and we've been getting them from other people on the East Coast, and we've been getting them from Florida, Rose, and a whole bunch of reports of these little illuminated cloud thingies all over the place, and they're hard to keep track of. There's so many of them.
Right. I moved over. two
I
pictures
think
from
the
there.
stuff's on the way.
I got a picture from looks like about a week ago or a little bit more, with all the purple in the sky with the
Yeah,
church.
right.
That's a
Okay, do you want me to
phenomenal.
move up the last one we were just on?
Which one?
The church one you got me to with the vertical clouds.
Yep, I'm
Am I
looking at
moving
it.
on?
I'm looking at it.
Okay, are we moving on or?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. That facial illumination, bottom of necessity.
Right.
Black dark church, yeah, that illumination, because we see that the sun's setting. So then why is that area right there illuminated?
Oh no, that's not setting. That's coming up.
Oh, okay. Bottom facial illumination.
Yep. Been seeing that a lot lately. How the sky gets really, really bright everywhere.
Right. Well, and in 2011, 2012, the birds were singing and doing all kinds of weird things at like midnight, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And it's because, they see in the spectrum that we don't. And this is the kind of thing that's been going on is these illuminated objects have been happening and people don't even really know what they're looking at. And they keep thinking, okay, that's just the normal sky. And it's not. I can't recall that ever doing that in my lifetime.
Yeah, I know that the sky is completely different.
And I paint, so I've watched the sky my whole life, just to understand how you paint it and everything. And that's perhaps why I see the light influences and the angles that are, what drew me to start looking at this all the way back in late 2009.
Yeah, the light influence on the sky is incredible, especially in the next picture.
Okay, next picture. Yeah, with the lines, and the question is that the object cluster group in the four,
Sure looks like it.
Yeah, and it's there, and it's there, and it's there, and it's in this picture, and that picture, and that picture.
It's in a lot
all
of
over the
pictures.
world, and here it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And yet, and these guys on these other sites are saying, well, we don't know what it is. No, it's a direct this and it's that.
Yeah, they keep guessing.
And I try not to talk about. I didn't talk about the object cluster group, God, for 2 years, and yet Sharon kept coming up with these pictures, and they kept getting, it was off over to the left of the sun up above, and then it was closer, and then it was bigger, and then it was 3 of them, and then it was 4 of them. And I got some pictures that go back where there's 20 or 30 in it, and they're all leaving a little trail and some great pictures. And Heidi, I wish I'd see more of her pictures because she gets phenomenal pictures. And over the years, we've been watching so many of them that I finally had to say, oh shit, there's something coming in beyond the planets, and there's beyond the moons, and this isn't the Melsaru, this isn't Nana up the side of Nibiru. These are asteroids that are rotating under Saru, and then we started watching them and get bigger, and now all of a sudden they're illuminating next to Earth and under these other planets. And then we saw discharges off the side of off of Saru, and then we saw a discharge off the side of Atu, and then we saw a discharge off the side of Nepesity, and then we saw a discharge off the side of Earth. And I thought, holy shit! And then we went from there. And look what we're having, with these freak electrical storms. And there's been quite a few postings of that too.
Right.
Cool stuff. This is electric. This is coming stuff. And
yeah.
I won't be surprised if we get pasted by something or many somethings. I moved on to the next picture. Oh, there's a direct Atu Uri pinch group where you got deep light blue underneath, but probably Saru way in the background.
Yep, a lot of people have been seeing that light bluish color when the sun's coming up.
Right, and that's where Saru would be behind Atu and Uri.
Yeah, because that's not the blue we normally see.
Side. And that's what color it is on that side. It's a light green. It's more blue than green, and whereas the Pesty is more green than blue. And of course, that blip right there in the middle of Atu's spatial lines is, of course, the moon of Atu.
Right.
It's vertical cloud.
How about this next one? Wow.
And it's another example of time after time after time we see the same thing. Okay, wow. That one is probably an overhead Nepesity, because you know how Nepesity's core cloud has fingers to it, just like Saru does, but it's smaller.
Right.
But we know that now it could be Saru, definitely, but it's most likely Nepesity or Saru.
Yeah, this was about a little over a week ago.
That's that fingered base cloud, and off to the left of the picture that we can actually see would be the central core, but this would be the side we're looking at. And I might very well, because of its size, be actually Saru. The sun shining underneath Saru, and Saru has passed over. Because that was really cool when that first started happening, because Saru was for the longest time on the left-hand side, and then we saw it come in from up above, and then it sort of sank into us, and then we came alongside of her, and then she was on the left for the longest time. Got the coolest shots of Saru for the longest time. I still have a bunch of them. And then she moved over to the right, and when she moved over to the right, all of a sudden after a time the sun started shining underneath her, and that's when we started seeing the illumination of Nepesity and the Satum and Matim, and you could see Atu a whole lot better, and that's when we started seeing the focal rainbowing of the object cluster group, and then we got picture after picture after picture, and over the last 3 years it's gotten closer and closer and closer and closer, and right next to our, right over the top of our heads during some of the day, and it's rainbowing out really cool still in many of the shots. Anyway, I could talk forever.
No worries. And the next two pictures is from one of my recent videos. I mean, this is at sunset. The sun's setting off to the left there. What an incredible shot.
Yeah, that again, and there you see the displaced weird wispy bottom with a vertical cloud going up, and that's Attu and Yuri again. And this isn't where Attu has gotten real. This was recent, right? Like
Yeah,
this week or last week?
this was on 120
Okay, a
or
week ago.
120.
And
Yeah.
this is farther down south in Mexico.
Yep.
Guadalupe is farther south. Is that like in South America?
Yeah. Well, I mean, all of the cams for webcams to Mexico are basically just in Mexico, but there are quite a few right there on the border of South America where they connect.
Okay, well, in this one, it definitely looks like the bottom of Attu and Yuri again, because there's the the familiar pinch shape that we see all the time.
Yeah, the second picture is pretty wild.
It doesn't have the base core cloud and snorkel like the Necessity would. So, okay, yeah, and that one I love that picture. That is phenomenal because you've got Attu, you've got the illumination of Attu's moon, you've got Isatum directly above the sun, and its yellow moon of Isatum illuminating with this frontal blip in the dead center of the focal flare, and then you got the rounding of the side of Necessity on the left-hand side, and its sharp, strong cutoff flares, all proving that they're exactly what they match my drawings and the cutoff flares, and when you see this time after time and then match the drawings, I just sit here and shake my head and go, God, this is really happening. This is real because it's all coming out time after time after time. And I wouldn't profess it as hard as I do, except that this is coming out time after time after time. And I was very cautious at first when I first started doing this 7 years ago. And then I've been so accurate because of all the members sending in the daily pictures. And when I first started, there was only 2 videos of Nibiru, and they were both pretty sickly information that was nowhere near what I already knew. And because I understand how the chemistry compound of our solar system works. And then later on, as time went by, we started getting more and more and more sites and more people talking about it and stuff like this. And there's a whole lot of disinformation, but there's a whole lot of good stuff too, especially the people that are coming out. All of a sudden, we're getting an echo. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, just checking. It's like I'm getting an echo. It's like, whoa, am I talking on a dead phone again? And I got to tell people out there, I'm really having a really hard time communicating with anybody because Facebook is only letting me post one thing at a time, and then all of a sudden I have to refresh the entire page. I can't put up information like I used to. I can't get back to people as I used to. I can barely type right now.
I try.
My feed is really slow, so that's why we're doing more of these and getting these out for you guys, and then you'll understand what we're talking about. Right?
Right.
Okay, cool. We'll do what you want to do next.
Well, I think we're gonna cut it off right here for now. That's a little over an hour.
Oh, okay. Well, let's put some interesting sound bites in there.
Okay.
Like tell everybody that we've been seeing the cube recently, and that'll give you a chance to play with some new. Jamie's got new toys. Anyway, then I'll say aloha from tropical Montana, Montana Skywatchers 1 and 2. Montana Skywatchers is the open site, so if you want to join there and see what's really happening real time every day, give me a holler. I'll answer questions as best I can. I can't get to everybody. I'd really like to, but there's a lot of folks talking to me all at the same time, and my feed for internet is really sucky. Go ahead, Jamie.
But I'm always around and answering people's questions as best I can. And I guess that's it for today, everybody. We'll get back to some more of these questions as they line up on the website there at Montana Skywatchers. We'll leave the link in the description box so you know how to find us. And go ahead.
I was going to mention the World Skywatcher Award of Approval scenario. We'll get into that in future videos too.
There you go. All right. Well,
yeah, like to those other sites, we'll give them the World Nibiru seal of approval if they're actually discussing accurate material.
There you go. And we'll use a couple Batman and Robin memes.
Anyway, I'll let you do your thing, man.
All right, man. Take care, everybody. See you next time. So we're back here with Sam Hoffman on What's That in the Sky, and we're going to go over some pictures that we've picked up along the way. We're looking at our first one now. What do you see in this picture, Sam?
Well, we've got the light effect, of course, sun, etc., is on the right hand side, and we've got the bottom. What appears to be, well, there's an oval on the right hand side, which is probably the bottom of Nepacity, because Nepacity has an ovular base cloud. And then there's an object in the middle, just above where it says October 2016, that looks like it's the striped lead object of the object cluster group. And then there's an illumination down just above the 6 to the slightly to the right. And I believe that to be one of the offshoots of where the object cluster group appears to have gone into like maybe 4 groups now, or more things coming in than what we were perceiving on earlier sightings.
Now, when you say object cluster groups in 4 sections, you mean it's split up?
I believe so. It's been changing shape over time. With when each time it went out and came back and went out and came back, we've noticed a change. And then there was some supposedly, I don't have this confirmed, of course, but a while back there was something that hit Jupiter again. And then when it came back around again, it had changed from the original threesome into a multiple group of 4 and 5 and 6, where were our sightings. And then over time, it ended up being 3 major lead ones, but they spread out from being close together to being more like almost like a 2 in one area, and then to the other area off to the right is the 3rd one. So that's what they've been changing shape. And now here in recent pictures, we've seen 4 and 5 and multiple other little objects and stuff floating down and coming along with it.
Interesting. And this next picture we got up after that one, is that object cluster group pushing in on the sun from the left there? Or is that a planet?
That looks really purple, and that could be the crossover of that too. That has been matching recent photos. And then, but then there's a white blip over the sun too, so it's really a hard call. It could be the bottom of Nepacity with just some drag off from a cutoff flare. But no, well, the white part over the far left, it could be.
Interesting. And what about that next picture coming up? That's really purple as well.
When the illumination, that's definitely something. Question is it's awful purple, and I would almost be tempted to call that too. Now, when was that taken? Do you remember?
That was taken about a month and a half ago. That was in the middle of the day.
Wow.
Took that out right in the backyard.
Now, this wasn't color changed at all or anything?
Nope. You can tell by the everything below.
Wow, the purple stuff screams that too.
Yeah, I saw that when I walked outside. I was like, oh my God.
I mean, that just screams that too. But then we were noticing that it was crossing in the day, and that's when we first started noticing it, right? It's back then.
Yeah, but this was back about, like I said, about a month and a half ago.
Okay. Yeah, it screams that too, but I mean, it's almost shaped like the cluster group, but yet it's not.
Yeah, the 45-degree angle's pretty much.
It makes it a lot more difficult lately because there's so many things right in the same area doing little crossovers. One's here and one's there, and the other one's here, and you're going, whoa, wow, look at this. Oh my goodness, what's that now? It's gotten quite busy.
Yeah, it has.
Shall we move to the next one?
Sure. The next one's a run of 6 photos that are basically, one after another.
Okay, this is the Mexico webcam with the nice little resort in the peninsula off ahead.
Yep, that's
Definitely
it.
got. This could be, it could be Attu crossing in, because notice the white cloud coming around in front of the flare.
Yep.
That could be like the vertical facial cloud lifting up. Or
is that the cluster group in front there?
Up in front here, the blue straight line, on the far left, there's that, it looks literally like the dragon flying through the sky.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's like, we've been watching ever since middle of last summer, we've been watching a drag off between the planets from the bottom of Attu and Uri, and on occasion, the drag off cloud would go all the way to the bottom of the Nepacity, which was on the far end of the other end of the sky. And this could be another example of Attu and Uri dropping a cloud between them, and having the object cluster group skirting the outside around of it.
Yeah, that's pretty wild looking.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all, polarly thread linked, because they're doing this really odd little dance together as a group all underneath the bottom of Saru. And people have been mentioning, well, where's Nibiru? Because, they're not hearing that name, which is what they know.
Right.
And that's above, off to the right, above Saru, or right next to it, or spiraling above our heads.
So it's up there ways enough we wouldn't even see it because of the other planets.
It's so massive we couldn't even tell, because all we would see is blue anyway. And I mean, it's such a huge sky pillar, and everything. And excuse me for a second, share, please. Yeah. Well. Okay. Thank you. Anyway,
No worries, Sam. I'll edit
there's
that out.
definitely a serious. You've got a rounded, very rounded thing on the right here, and of course, we know that Atu and Yuri are on the right, and then we know that Nepesity is on the left. But then Atu's been crossing in front, and then everybody's been seeing his Satsum cross from the left side over